I am Tolly. I am a podcaster and a writer. Yeah, like I create content as well. So yeah, all in all, I'm a content creator, but mainly known as a podcaster.
Nice. And when did your interest in like content creation sort of start?
Do you know what? I did media and communications at uni. So like from when I was in year 10, I was going to be a journalist. That's what I'd always said to myself. I did my work experience at Sugar magazine, which is long gone now. But it's always going to be a thing. I was going to be a journalist. So I did that uni. So after uni, I became a journalist. So I started I worked with magazines. I was a beauty. I would say I still write it. I still write beauty, still write lifestyle. So yeah, I was a beauty and lifestyle journalist. And then there's like the media grows and the media changes. And it's not just writing anymore. It's podcast now. It's talking. It's like doing stuff. It all kind of like, to encompass it all, it was like, okay, cool, I create content.
And of course, you mentioned the podcast that you run, the Receipts podcast. It's been a phenomenal journey so far.
Yeah, it's been exciting. It's going to be 3 years soon, this year actually. So I think it's just like none of us thought it would be this. It was just something that was going to be fun, we'll talk, and then we'll keep it moving sort of thing. But like it's become this whole like thing now, which is amazing for us, and we're so excited to see like how much bigger it can be. And it's just nice to be able to like use our voices, which is what's the most important thing about the podcast for me.
And of course, you're now on Spotify.
Yes.
Massive thing. How did that whole opportunity come together?
It was just, Spotify is like investing in podcasts is what they're doing at the moment. It's great, and it's like we are a podcast that's doing well, and it's just a meeting. Like email the right person, talk to the right person. It was an email. Yeah, it was a meeting, and then from there it like more meetings, and then like so many more things happened from there. But yeah, it was just a thing of it made sense for us and it made sense for them, and we're so grateful for the opportunity. Like Spotify is cool. It's like, and it's amazing to have like this massive name be like, hey, we are investing in what you guys got to say. We are investing in podcasts. And in the UK, ultimately, podcast hasn't been that massive. The Americans have, they're like leaps and bounds above us. They've been doing it for years and years. I mean, yeah, but the UK, it still feels quite new, although it isn't. Or it still feels like a space where people that look and sound like me haven't penetrated yet. So this is exciting.
That is very true. I think over in the States, obviously has a bigger platform, but also I think it's also the culturally as well.
Yeah.
Like you're more celebrated there for being kind of outlandish and being yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas over here, we still have that kind of reserved British thing,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is weird. Taking a little step back, you were also on BBC One Extra for a while as well. You had a little residency there.
Yeah.
How was that whole experience, just being a part of that platform?
It was amazing because it's the BBC. Like ultimately, that's like even me as someone that's a journalist. Like I had applied for jobs at BBC so many times, didn't get any of them. But like it's like the pinnacle in terms of like on paper. And I think that what that did for us was like it made us feel like we were like mainstream. Like it made us feel like not because. Ultimately, it's like the media. It's got its gatekeepers. It's got it's like this bit, this bit lives here, this bit lives here, and it kind of made us feel like, oh, this is the BBC stamp of approval, and like you can tell people, oh, we're on BBC, and it's like it's the BBC ultimately.
It's true. It has like a different kind of weight. Of it
It's
as well.
like it kind of. I felt like at the time, it felt like it added integrity to what we were doing.
And how, like, obviously taking like a massive step back. So of course you went to university at Brunel.
Yep.
Did media and communications. Prior to that, how have your family been in like kind of encouraging you and supporting you in your career?
Ultimately, my mum from day dot was just like graduate. It was kind of like she kind of didn't care what it was in, as long as we went to university and we got a degree. That was for all of her kids, and all three of us did that. And then the least horrible way, she's had very little interest in what I do. Like my mum doesn't know what I do now, sort of thing. Like it's so like, oh hey, like there's money every month, and that's kind of her main concern. And I mean, like, because now I'm a freelancer, she like will see me in the house and they'll be like, oh, I just pray that God gives you a job. Like in this kind of this, because she has no idea what it is or what I do. So I've been lucky enough to not have a mum that was like, you have to study this, you have to study that. It was just more study, get your degree and get a job. So there was never any push into any direction. I mean, it would have been amazing if she kind of like had more interest in me or whatever. But then like my sister has been like amazing. My sister comes to all of our live shows, she listens to the podcast. She's really like encouraging and she gets it, which is nice.
And that's the main thing that you need, like someone there.
Yeah, exactly.
Supporting you. And then when you first started in media, what was your first job? And what was that experience like?
So my first job, what was my first media role? Oh, my first media role was, so I kind of like went in and out. Initially I said I went to work in PR, and I had an internship at a PR company, and like it was like journalists were like, I was the one calling up journalists, asked them to do stuff, and I was like, I don't want to be the one calling people up, I want people to call me up. So I was like, no, I'm not doing PR, like, because I wouldn't be the one that's going to be like landing the stories. I don't want to, so I sacked that off. And then I was like, I want to work in the music industry for a little while. And I remember at the time I got another internship job with a record label. And at the time I was helping looking after Getz when he was Ghetto and Devlin. So like kind of like worked there for a little while, and I was like, again, I don't want to work in the music industry. I don't love this. So then I went to my first media proper job was at a place called River Publishing, and at the time I was working at this magazine called Fancy Magazine, which was literally like about fruit and nuts. It was the least exciting thing ever. No, like literally, it was about fruit and nuts. And then from there, another magazine started called Life and Living, which was for like the over 50 set. Again, not very exciting. And then the same publishing house launched a beauty magazine, which was like right up my street. And then I got a job there. So it was kind of like went from like, when I knew I went to do journalism and write, I was just like, okay, cool, I'm just going to get a job in it. I wasn't going to look for, of course, it would have been amazing to work for the Cosmos or the Elle at the time, but I was like, I want to get in there and just establish myself. So my first proper writing gig was for a magazine called Fancy Magazine, and it was sold in Julian Graves, which no one knows about, which is a nut shop. They sell nuts, and I think they've closed down now.
And I know that you went on to work for BuzzFeed as well.
I did, yeah.
But I also have heard you before working there, before applying there, you had the dream to work there 2 years prior.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to work. That was like the pinnacle for me in terms of like what I was writing, how I was writing it, which is from the outside looked like the coolest place to work. And like I would spend so much of my working days reading BuzzFeed articles where at the time where I was before. And I remember like my friend sent me a link to an internship they were doing, which they called, they didn't call it internship, I can't remember what they called it now, but it was a fellowship they were doing, just a year long or whatever. And at the time I think I was about like 24 going on 25, and I was just like, I'm not doing another internship. Like I was just like, I've been doing internships since I was 15. I'm just not doing it. I want a full-time role. So I didn't apply for it. I kind of got like, quite cocky. I was like, no, I'm not applying for it. I don't want an internship. And then I think I just kept looking at the job site, and then a full-time role came along, which was like the beauty and lifestyle writer. And I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted, and I applied for it. And yeah, I got it. It was like a long like application system. It was like give examples of your work. I think I had like 3 to 4 interviews.
Oh wow.
So it was, but yeah, and then I got it, and I was like, yeah, I was there for 2.5 years, and then I left.
And how important was like, would you say was the planning and trying of like getting in and getting that kind of role? Because I know you had the dream, you got there, but then that kind of gap between the 2 years prior to and then the 2 and obviously starting.
So what I realised, because initially I was working for press, which is like paper. I mean, I was working for like an actual physical magazine, and I was like, oh, I need to get online. I think a magazine company closed down, and company is like a huge magazine. I was like, oh, print is not it anymore. Like people are going to digital, and I need to get to digital. So I knew I had to get digital experience before applying for BuzzFeed. So there's a website called So Feminine, who sounds like a tampon ad, but it's not. It's like a woman's beauty, lifestyle of beauty. So I applied for a job there. So I worked there for a year first before I felt like, okay, cool, I've got digital experience now. Let me apply for BuzzFeed. So it was quite like strategic, and like I knew I couldn't just go there just with my print experience. I needed to have stuff online, because it feels really weird that I'm old enough to like I've been working when magazines were a massive thing.
Yeah.
Now they're kind of like faded away and everything's online. But like, yeah, So Feminine was my first online experience, and I was so grateful for it because it just taught me so much. I don't think if I'd worked there, I would have got a job at BuzzFeed. Yeah, because I just wouldn't have the digital experience.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing, because a lot of people have that desire to make those steps into these new companies or even into new roles, but they don't necessarily get this experience that's required. They don't necessarily see that kind of needs to do something a little bit like a sidestep, I guess, before going to that place they want to go to. And of course, you're big on social media. Well, maybe.
I enjoy social media.
Enjoy it?
Yeah.
It's obviously right now, everything is like kind of focused around there, from like TV shows and how they do the advertising to campaigns and stuff. Have you gotten any opportunities through social media?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Most of like the roles and jobs that I've done, even taken to getting my agent DM'd me on Twitter. That's how I have an agent. Like
Wow.
she listened to the podcast and then she DM'd me. I've had like a lot of opportunities and people were just like DMing me like, hey, I think even so I had an opportunity to work at Top Boy and I saw so for the agency, the role I saw was on Twitter. So I kind of like messaged them on Twitter sort of thing. So like Twitter has been amazing for me, like work-wise opportunities and even like meeting people. I've just met the most amazing people from Twitter as well. So yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Top Boy,
Yep.
I know season 3 is coming soon.
Yep.
I know you were involved in the
So I was
writing
involved
for the
in
trailer.
the trailer. Yeah. I've got nothing to do with the show itself. It's brilliant. Like it's going to be great, and I can't wait for the world to see it because like I love Top Boy from when it was from day dot one. It was on Channel 4. So it's amazing that Netflix has picked it up and it's going to be a thing. But yeah, so I was involved in the trailer of it. So it was. Like I said, the agency, I was working in another campaign with them and like my time was kind of done. I was kind of like, okay, cool, that campaign is finished. And the creative director there was just like, hey, would you be interested in like pitching for this? And I was like, of course I would. Like, I am like a fan of this sort of thing. And I think recently, before I'd just rewatched it again on Netflix. So yeah, pitched for it and wrote the script for it. And then it kind of was like used and like premiered at Drake concert, which is exciting.
And even like going to the process of actually writing that kind of script and then, because it's quite a powerful promo. I remember seeing it on Twitter. Everyone was just going crazy about it. And then you're getting clips of people filming the screen and the full thing came out. Like, how did you kind of put that concept together?
Do you know what? It is from being a fan of Top Boy and being from London. So it's just like, if you're from London, you're from those areas, you know this kind of like, the youngsters have no fear, the olders are washed. Like you know that's what it is. It's kind of like there's this like new breed of like guys that think they're it, and then the old one are not letting go of it, and that's ultimately what Top Boy is. Like it is this like who is the top boy, who is the G of the area. So I think just like living in London, being in those like circles, and kind of being and seeing people competing for this like I am the top boy, and also being a massive fan of the show. So it kind of made it like this makes sense of the show.
And it was perfect. And you're right, it does sum up. Like if anyone's watching that trailer who's not from the UK, they would immediately think London. They'd probably just think London. And they wouldn't even know why they think London.
It was really important to me to kind of like show London. And like I said, I watch a lot of television. And before ever I've been going to America, I knew exactly what New York looked like. I'd got to America, and when I went to New York, when I went to Miami, all of these places looked so familiar to me. I knew that their school buses were yellow. I knew this. I knew like so many things. And that's from watching television and films over the years. But I feel like people that don't only see London in films will never know what London looks like. Even something as simple as seeing our double yellow lines. Like that means nothing to them, whereas that means a lot to us here sort of thing. So it was just important to show like show London as a character as well and not just a place. Because I feel like that's what American television has done so well. Like, I know New York before I'd ever gone to New York.
And I mean, speaking of London, I feel like right now we're in this kind of very positive like time where there's so many opportunities and people are really thriving.
Yeah.
And even on that note, you've got like this kind of resurgence or this kind of refocus of the Black voice and the Black narrative in the sense that we're getting opportunities to do stuff and we're building stuff that's actually starting to shake the foundations of the established ways of doing things. And we had this like past week, Afro Nation took off, and that festival seemed to have been like a resounding success. Yeah. And I wish I had had the foresight to think of going. What do you think about that kind of, this sort of new perspective of Blackness in a more positive light as opposed to kind of the old stereotypes?
Oh, like it's amazing. Like this, I always like joke about using your Black privilege. Like, we don't get it often. So when we do, let's use it and let's use it well sort of thing. I think it is like amazing that we are, because of course we are. Like I feel like sometimes when we talk about it, we're so used to talking about Blackness as some sort of trauma and sadness, but like ultimately a lot of it is not trauma. It is a lot of joy. And so like, why can't we focus on that? And why can't we live that? Like me as a black woman, I just want to live my life. Like, I just want to live my life. I want to have a lot of fun. And like, I don't want to consistently carry oppression and trauma and things like that. So I think it's amazing that people are now like, I'm just going to do things I enjoy. I'm going to have an idea and I'm going to do it. And like, we're using the opportunities that we have to make the most of it. I always joke about rob this England. And I believe it all over my heart. Like, rob this England, do what you need to do you know what I mean? To come out top. And I honestly believe that. So it's like my blackness means the entire world to me. Like, but it's not something I want to consistently like wear and like, you know, it's because I'm black and like things like that. Of course those things happen, but like I want us to relish in the joy of being black as well and enjoying everything that we're doing and support each other as well.
I agree. I think that's really powerful. And I think even like going back to last year when you had like Baychella, and just how she kind of pushed not just like blackness, but obviously Black American history and Black American culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
And others have tried to do cheap imitations of it and haven't quite gotten it right. But it just shows that like you can just be your authentic self and have such a weight.
And because we're Black Britishness is so different to being a Black American because our blackness does still stem from like a lot of us here are still first, second generation. Like we're probably like the first generation to be born in this country. So our Black Britishness is still heavily linked with being Caribbean, being African or being wherever you're from sort of thing. So it's like, that's a whole culture in itself that is like separate from being Nigerian or being British. Like Black Britishness combines so many of our like traditions and things like that, but then it also combines being in England and what that means as well. So it's like, I always think, and I think that for the longest time, the only idea what was black was Black Americans, but we're very different to them.
And I mean, on that note of like culture and importance and I guess a little bit we could talk about responsibility. Of course, you have in your platform, obviously this platform here is EightSeven. We have a responsibility to promote like an authentic image, an unfiltered image. Like, how do you feel when you're on the podcast and you're speaking, knowing that people are looking at you as a Black woman, and they're almost like your voice holds something to them?
I dropped that burden a while ago because I think it is. I don't need to be the good black. I don't need to be the black that everyone looks up to. And for the longest time, it was like, I can't do certain things because if I do it, it means Black women will be seen like this. And I realised that I have to drop that burden because white people don't have that burden. They don't have to behave a certain way for other white people behind them or in front of them or whatever. They can just live their lives. So for me, what's important, and because I realise that the women I look up to them because they're in spaces, because of the space that they're in, they're taking up the space, and they are just like achieving great things. And it's not because, she acts like this in this space. It's what I look up to more, and what I always thrive to do is to be audaciously myself wherever I am, because I think that's more inspiring than trying to be the voice of all the Black women in the world, because that's a burden too heavy for me to carry. I can't do that.
And I don't think it's fair to have that as a responsibility either. So how do you manage your week, your schedule, your time?
I'm a bum. Like, I'm an actual bum. It's a lot of my week is recording, because I also produce and edit the podcast as well. So I edit. I also edit for other podcasts as well. So I would do stuff like for other companies or things like that. And I write a lot of it as well, and a lot of it is meetings at the moment. It's just like I'm at this very exciting point in my life where it feels like things are bubbling over, and it's just like in a nice way. So it's just like meetings and just like amazing, exciting opportunities. Yeah.
I mean, do you have like a typical morning routine when you wake up?
I try to. When I first went freelance, I was like, cool, I've got so much time. I can go to the gym in the morning and then come back. Then I was like, I can't be managed. I do what I want. So, no, I don't. But I'm really, I need to get one, because sometimes the way I'm living, only God. Because like I said, I can be a bum. Yeah.
You've had quite a few awards for your name. You were MHP's 30 to Watch Lifestyle Gold winner.
I was. That's been my only award, I think.
No, you got DOTS 100 Creatives Inspiring Change in Media.
It wasn't a physical thing, do you know?
But it was nice. I need something to put on the mantelpiece. What does we all, in everything you do, you always want recognition. How does it feel knowing that people look at you and your work is having an impact to get these opportunities for you?
It is the nicest thing about doing this, because I feel like it would be, because of what I do, if I was a train driver or someone that fixes furniture, I just need to do my job. But because of what I do, I think it would be weird to act like I don't care about people's recognition, because ultimately that's what pads up what I do. Without that, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So it means the world to me. And it's not because, it doesn't mean the world to me that they agree with me. I don't need them to agree with me. I just need them to listen to it. So it's not because they think, oh, she's right, she's brilliant. They can be like, this girl's an idiot.
That's true.
But it's just that you're taking in my content.
How many years have you been doing the receipts now?
It's going to be 3 years.
3 years soon.
Yeah, in September 2019.
And you've learned a lot by doing it.
So much.
And a lot of people have been inspired by your podcast to start their own. I mean, there's been a lot of, I guess, Black British podcasts that have sprung up over the last 18 months. Yep. If you were to start a podcast now, today, from scratch, with all the lessons you've learned from doing the Receipts podcast, how would you do it?
I would do something completely different to the Receipts. It'll be completely different. It'll be like a storytelling one.
Okay.
And it will just be like reading out stories or like things that like beautiful written, so things that people have written. I love stories, and I love stories as well. So it would be that. It would just be like, one thing I learned definite was just like the importance of being consistent, and thankfully that we kept at that. And it would just be like just to do it, which we done. But yeah, I feel like I've learned so much from doing the receipts, outside of like practical skills, like editing skills and things like that. It's just like working with people and like working with people that got different personalities to you. And like, I think I would be more willing to learn from people. Now I am, but initially I was like, no, these are my thoughts. My thoughts are fine. And I would have a guest and be like, oh my God, you're just shaking everything I've ever thought. I always refer back to Julia Zanuga's episode. And I was like cemented in my views on love and romance and marriage. And then she came on a podcast and spun me, like completely spun me. And like, I like look at that whole thing very differently now.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be more open to be like, I don't know it, basically. I don't know. Or to see what happens.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
That's really, really good advice. I mean, if you were to like advise anyone new that's listening who's starting a podcast or is going to start one or has been doing it for a little while, what's like say 5 tips you could give them?
Consistency.
Yep.
Sometimes I think like planning is an excuse for procrastination. Like, oh, I'm just getting something, just do it. Like when you're like planning it or you're doing your research, you're just trying to buy yourself time. Consistency, just doing it. Kind of like be your own advertising. Like, don't be. We still tweet the Receipts podcast probably every single day. We still talk about it, and don't like belittle what you're doing. Don't be like, oh, I just do this podcast. Just speak about it with pride. Like the same way someone like if someone was a doctor, yeah, I'm a doctor for this. There's a pride that comes with it, and that pride needs to come into like if you're doing a podcast as well. Work with people that you not only like, because sometimes that can go by the wayside, but you can work together with. Because you can be the best of friends. Like this podcast is not done with my friends, so like you all have the same agenda. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing it for, and have a USP. Why should we listen to yours? What's your voice? What's your story? That's things I'd say.
To close, going forward in time.
Okay.
So getting
how many years are we talking?
Near the end of your career. This is quite a long
while to go. Okay, cool.
What would you like? How would you like your career to look?
Again, I want to be filthy rich. I want to have been that person that like did a lot of things. So it was like, oh, she created this, she created that, she created this. I think there's something really powerful in that. I remember I interviewed Jacob Banks once, and I was like, I did the same question that I was like, oh, what legacy would you like to have left behind or whatever? And he said to have kept people company, and I've stolen that. And I say it now, and like one of my things is for people to be like, oh, she kept me company. So if it was like my voice in the podcast or like a script that I created, or they went to theatre to watch something that I wrote, or whatever it is I involved in, I want them to feel like I was kept company. They were kept company by me during that. Even if they never met me before in their lives, I just want them to feel like I kept them company.
That's really powerful.
Thanks to Jacob, it's not mine, but I'm taking it. And I elaborated it more than he did anyway, so it's fine.